welcome back to the Super Centex Podcast. And guys, we have reached the finish line. I hope you're not out of gas. I hope you have a finishing kick here for State Week. With me, as always, DJ Ramirez, Chad Conine. And so we have 3 teams in Central Texas playing for state championships this week. Abbott, Mart, and China Spring. So it's the ultimate stage. They're playing for the ultimate prize. And so let's break down these teams a little bit. And we'll start with just sort of chronological order in terms of when they play. And that would be the Abbott Panthers going first. They play Albany.
They play Westbrook.
Westbrook.
Yeah. I noticed that in the script too.
Albany is who Mart plays. Thank you for catching that. Yes, yeah. Westbrook, which makes me think of Russell Westbrook. So yes, Westbrook. Sorry.
That's Albany. You had an aversion. You had an aversion to saying Westbrook. That's why you said Albany.
Yes,
because of Russell Westbrook.
Yes, as he's known around the NBA, Westbrick. Yes, Albany would have an advantage over Abbott if they were playing because they would have 5 extra players guys on the field.
Yeah.
The 6-man game, Abbott and Westbrook. Thank you for catching that. So what has impressed you guys about Terry Crawford and the Abbott Panthers?
Well, I mean, I think they lived up to the hype. I guess, the whole season, you look at the stats coming in and even though they lost their best player, Riley Sestala, they still had guys that stepped in, mainly Mason Howell. And it's just, I didn't get to watch a lot of 6-man football. I got to go over that one game out in early and they were impressive. And there was a lot of math involved. So I'm glad you're standing Chad to cover that game because my brain couldn't take it.
Yeah, it is a little different, obviously. 1st and 15, 80-yard field. The kick was worth more than the run in on a conversion or something like that. So, yeah, it's a little different in 6-man. But, yeah, what were you going to say, Chad?
Well, I heard DJ say that you were glad I was being sent to cover the 6-man, but the irony of that is they do stats for you at the state championship game,
That's so you kind of got the field makes my head hurt, dude.
You got the raw end of that one. Yeah. But I mean, as you were saying, they have replaced a piece and just kept right on going, and that's impressive. And I just emailed my advance of the game to Brice, and what's really amazing, I don't know how often we see this, and you're going to see it as 6-man where, if you get a couple of players in or a few players, you can really turn things around fast. But they missed the playoffs for 3 straight years, which is really strange in Abbott. They went to the state championship game in 2015, then they missed the playoffs in 17, 18, and 19. And they had a group coming in that included Caden Johnson, who's the older brother of Carson Johnson, Abbott's current quarterback. And starting with the 2020 season, they have won 38 of their last 40 games. They got beat in the second round of the playoffs in 2020. They made it to the state semifinals in 2021. Terry Crawford pointed out yesterday they played 9 extra games the last 2 seasons. And here they are back in the state championship game for the 3rd time, but it's their first time playing at AT&T Stadium in Jerry World, as they said.
Yeah, no doubt. The last time they won, they played out in Albany. That was before kind of the 6-man games were.
Actually, it wasn't. That was the year that there was some sort of scheduling conflict with AT&T Stadium, and they moved the rest of the games to NRG.
Oh, okay.
But they put 6-man in Albany.
All right. I didn't remember that little nugget about that, but that's good. That's good detail. Yeah, I think y'all hit on it. To me, Abbott, and we've talked about it before, but they have uncommon depth at the 6-man level. When you have 20-something guys on the roster, that could rival a lot of 2A schools. And so the fact that they were able to, next man up it with when Riley Sestala got hurt. And I know when I talked to Terry Crawford last, I don't know if he mentioned this yesterday, Chad, but there was talk that Riley might be able to come back and play in the state game. We'll see. I mean, obviously broken collarbone, you know.
I don't want to sway things too much, but yesterday at practice, he had his arm in a sling on the field. So
Okay.
Coach Crawford told me that his collarbone fracture was closer to the sternum, which makes it a tougher bounce back.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, Mason Hale certainly has picked up the slack. And so hopefully Abbott can take it home against the bad shooting of Russell Westbrook. All right, let's move on. So the other game we have on Wednesday involves the mighty machine that is the Mart Panthers. They will play for the 9th state championship in school history. That's just mind-blowing. I know there's been 100 years of UIL football or whatever, but still a lot of state titles, man, to win that many. Essentially, you're winning 10% of them. So anyway, Mart does play Albany, correct? Am I right? Thank you.
Play Albany.
Good. They're in the 2A Division II final. What does Mart need to do to kind of finish this off with win number 16 in a row? And does Albany even stand a chance?
I want to say worried about Mart not winning this game. Yeah. I was out there yesterday, and I got there a little bit before practice started, waiting for coach to come out. And there was already like a group of the players were like running drills in like that, in the kind of way that you play backyard football on Thanksgiving, kind of where you're calling out plays and they're running them, and it was just super relaxed. Like even after practice started, when there was like a switch and everyone was like down to business, it still kind of felt like nobody was worried, especially about the other team. Like they're just going to go out, do their job, and they're not worried about anything else. So I don't know. I feel good about tomorrow. And they've had that chip on their shoulder the whole season about losing last year. So they're in it. I think I don't know much about Albany. Coach said something about they had a few players when they lost earlier in the season. It was because of injuries. So I think they might have those guys back. But yeah, I'm really not worried about Mart losing this game tomorrow.
Chad, what do you say? Well, I've got a couple of points to make here. I was about to say a while ago before I froze up that I got, secondhand chastised by Matt Stepp of Texas Football for putting DJ on the spot in the podcast too often, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to make the point that DJ jumped in ahead of me a minute ago. So I did not put her on the spot.
Because I actually know what I'm talking about this time.
However, I am going to sort of contradict what she was saying about not being worried about Mart or Mart being loose, because I guarantee you, Kevin Hoffman will not sleep a wink on Tuesday night thinking about the Windthorst Trojans from 2 years ago.
Yeah, no doubt. That was a game again. Let's see, Mart would have been going for 4 in a row, right? Yeah, and we were convinced that it was going to happen. I mean, we thought Rodrell Freeman would be like one of the first guys to win 4 rings, and Windthorst just outplayed them. And obviously surprises happen, but I do feel like DJ's point is valid in that first you take that game, Chad, the Windthorst game, and there'll be guys that remember that. And then there's guys that remember last year and falling a win short. I think they're going to be so motivated, and just Mart with motivation is scary. I mean, that chip on their shoulder that DJ referenced, man, I mean, you don't want to play when they're just fired up,
And I think there's something about maybe I don't know, that level, that 2A level, a smaller school level where you have all the kids, like there's always a story about these kids used to be the ball boys on the team that won state in this year and that type of thing. And they're so closely related to the program, that when kids get their first chance to play for it, but they've seen it before, that's sort of a vibe unto itself. Whereas I also think there's like this thing where if you've won 3 in a row, I don't want to say they were lax against Windthorst, but I think they probably expected to go up there and do their Mart thing and crush Windthorst. And when that didn't happen, the longer the game went on, the more it tilted in Windthorst's advantage. So yeah, I can see a bunch of guys with their first shot at it and wanting to get that championship back to Mart. I can see them, handling this one. But I can see that. DJ can see that. Brice can see that. Kevin Hoffman, I guarantee you, will not be sleeping tonight.
No, that's fair. That's fair. These coaches, this is what they do, man. I mean, they worry, they sweat, but that's what gets these teams prepared too. So, all right. And then we have China Spring. And on paper, to me, this just looks like the best matchup of the 3 games that we're talking about. China Spring was challenged by Decatur. You guys were at that game, but the Cougars made the plays they needed down the stretch.
Before we get to the matchup, can we talk for a second about how crazy it was the other night? Because there was like the last onside kick, I just had to kind of wait for the people to come running out of the fog to see who recovered the ball, right, DJ?
You couldn't see their guys on the sideline. Decatur, you could not see anybody on that side of the field. And that was where the ball was going the entire time, late in the fourth quarter. You couldn't see the fans on the other side.
The fog goal.
Decatur's last touchdown, I'll describe for you. I was, keeping stats and I'm watching through my binoculars, which really didn't do any good. And they threw a touchdown pass and I was like, guys, who caught that? And the other guys were like, I guess it was number 13. And I was like, it wasn't number 7. Because I saw number 7 go in motion out of the backfield. And I think that's who they threw it to. I mean, this is what we're dealing with, Brice. That's how little we could see. And then the guys go, oh, okay, it was 7. Maybe it was 7. And they turn to the coaches in the booth next to them and knock on the window. And they're like, was that 7? And they were like, yeah, that was 7. So
at least that will not be an issue on Friday at Jerry World. If there's fog at Jerry World, something really has gone wrong.
Right.
But it was a weird game for sure. And China Spring pulled it out 33-27. I assume that's what the scoreboard said through the fog. And so now they get Boerne. And to me, Boerne, is a pretty tough challenge for China Spring. They come in at 15-0. They have 2 shutouts in the playoffs alone, including last week in the state semifinals against Chapel Hill. So fill in the blank for me. China Spring wins this game if
they manage to maybe find a way to throw the ball. I think that hurt a little bit this past game. And that had a lot to do with Cash McCollum just being hurt from the game previous. One of the guys in the press box that was with China Spring was talking to us about how the trainer has said that Cash could not move his ankle in a certain direction. And so he should not have been running the ball on Friday. But they were I don't know if it was Decatur just reading the offense pretty well, that they couldn't really find ways to get the ball in the air. And, obviously the fog, it might not have been as bad on the field as it was for us. But I don't know. It just, a lot of guys were really maybe not up to the level that they usually are. And so, it's just a little bit worrisome on that side of things, just not being able to do what they usually are able to do.
I think
it'll be a really close game.
Yeah, it definitely. It looked like Cash was really having trouble getting much on the ball. They were throwing a lot of sideline routes, and it probably got worse as the game went on, especially with the wet field. That probably didn't help. I'm going to answer your question by saying China Spring will win if their strength of schedule is what we think it is. Because I feel like throughout the course of this entire season, playing Stephenville in district, Anna in the playoffs, Decatur, kind of maybe Decatur's kind of a Cinderella to get to the state semifinals this last week, but a really good team, and they put up a really good game against China Spring. Because I look over at Boerne's schedule, and they beat number 2 Cal Allen in the regional final, and that was a great win. But I don't see a whole lot of big time challenges for Boerne up to this point. So I don't think Boerne has played the strength of schedule throughout the season that China Spring has played, and I think that's going to bring itself to bear on Friday.
That's a fair point. I think, and this is no disrespect to Corpus Christi Cal Allen, but Cal Allen is one of those programs that wins a lot of games and then peters out around the regional final round, and so they were probably overranked at number 2. And again, I think Boerne's going to give him a good game. I liked Greg Tepper's analysis on Twitter. He said something like he feels like this is going to be the closest thing to like China Spring Stephenville, and so we know what that game turned out to be, right down the wire with a field goal at the end to win it. And obviously, if it does come down to a field goal at the end, hey, China Springs got a pretty good kicker. Thomas Barr, that kid, he's money. So that bodes well for China Spring. But I like that take, Chad, that obviously China Spring has played tough teams. They played the TAPS defending state champion. That was the one loss. But, to me, even teams like a down La Vega, they're going to be physical. They're going to challenge you. Seeing Stephenville, obviously, to me, that district was really, really good. And so just the battles that they have faced, I think that certainly bodes well for China Spring and being there last year, wasn't last year, Chad, Kyle Barton, wasn't he banged up going into the state game?
He was, yeah.
And so this is his opportunity to kind of show out on the state stage.
I can't remember how they spelled him in that game last year, but it was such a weird coincidence because Reed Nickna for Lorena and Kyle Barton from China Spring were both banged up in the semifinal game.
Yeah.
I tell you what, if Gabe Watkins returns a block kick for a score, whether it be a touchdown or a 2-point conversion, then we're just gonna like I tweeted this week, we're gonna have to create a super Centex block kick return specialist for that team.
Yeah. We have
and name it after him.
We have actually discussed before. Remember, Chad, because there would be coaches that would sometimes nominate like a deep snapper or something like that. And we've talked about things like that, like a special teams guy or whatever. But
actually, probably the solution is for a patented Brice Cherry column on the matter. Where you name the deep snapper and the block kick return specialist, right? And then people end up taking that for real and using it in their banquet and putting it on their resume and everything.
It is for real. It's about as official. So DJ, the story there is the first time I did one of those kind of columns where I went through and I was like, all right, look, we have all these super Centex teams. But then we don't have them for certain individual sports like cross country and tennis and golf, because for one, we don't have time to do 8 jillion super Centex teams. But beyond that, those individuals, they get named state champion. You have a chance to win the golf state title or whatever. But anyway, I named the Super Centex Golfer of the Year for boys and for girls and tennis player and whatever. Anyway, some mama out somewhere, I think in West, I don't remember, was like, hey, my daughter was your cross country runner of the year. can I put that on her letter jacket? And I was like, yeah, sure. Not as official as it's gonna get. I mean, so yeah. If I do write a column and we name Gabe our block kick return specialist of the year, put it on your letter jacket, Gabe. And with that, we'll say adieu. You guys will be up at Jerry World tomorrow and Friday, and should be a lot of fun.
Another season in the books.
All right. Good one. Thanks, y'all.
Yeah, bye-bye.
See ya.